Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K, and we are in March of 2023. How is this possible? It just felt like January ended yesterday, and February went by like that. But it's time for a whole bunch of new videos. We got a lot of exciting things going on this month. And to start it off, I'm going back to a top 13 list of one of my favorite game series. Now, again, even though I never played the game series, I watched it from a great YouTuber who, after the game series was finished, he stopped doing videos to do time with his family, and I applaud him for that. But if you guys want to check out the videos I'm talking about, go to YouTube and take a look at the link of Pitching Ace 88. I've been following him since 2013 when he played the Criminal Case game series on Facebook. And it's been now 2 years since the final season of Criminal Case released. 8 seasons in this game, and I'm only now on season 5 of doing these videos. And sadly, season 8 was cut short due to the COVID issue in Paris because the company who does it is in Paris. But I'm just going to say this. If they ever decide to make this series into a show on Netflix with like the animation style, like the cartoon style that they did it, like Archer, I would 100% go for it. Honest to God. I don't care if I've seen all the cases already. I would love to watch it. So we are now season 5 of Criminal Case, and that is The Conspiracy. We're heading back to the very first where season 1 took place, where it started all, Grimsbroug. We have some new locations, we have some old enemies, some old friends, some new enemies, some new friends. And I'm gonna admit, this was a fantastic season. I cried, I laughed, I was furious beyond all belief. But within these cases, 13 of them rose to become one of my favorites in the season. But to start things off, a year before our season begins, something falls into the forest of Grimsbroug, and that's all we're given from it. And there's been a lot, and yeah, so that's how we start off everything. And my God, this season was an absolute roller coaster of emotion. And I enjoyed every minute of it. Now let's dig into this conspiracy. Also, for those of you who haven't seen Criminal Case or anything, spoilers are ahead. So now it's time for Gamer K's top 13 Criminal Case episodes of Season 5, The Conspiracy. And why top 13? Because here at the Game Hub, only the odd can be number 1. Starting off is a final case of an area. Old Town? Yeah, I'm not going to remember. Yeah, I think so. Old Town. It's called The Truth Hurts. During this area, we are going undercover and discovering an ancient cult who believes in the truth or whatever. And an old season 1 suspect, Stephen Grow. I can't remember this guy's name because, again, I can remember a lot of stuff, but sometimes if I don't have all the facts with me. Yeah, so he's basically become this cult leader and believes in the truth and everything. And yeah, he's the one that gets murdered, obviously. Here's a little fun fact about Criminal Case. At the last case of an area, of a district, the person who's either appeared the most in the area, someone who's been a big part of the story, is usually going to become a murderer or a victim. That's how the formula goes. Although I will admit, sometimes they do put in a lot of twists that screw that over. So this case was pretty fun. Our profiler in our team, Gabriel, went undercover into the cult to discover their entire plan, and it's pretty sinister. The case is okay. The murder, I'm not going to give away a bunch of the murder, but The murderer discovered that the entire cult was a lie, and yeah, that's the reason for the murder. And upon reviewing what Foley was intending to happen, one of the cult senior members was trying to indoctrinate mass suicide. Also, mature subject matter is in this video, so if you are under the age of 18 or topics of this may set you off, will not set you up, but make you feel uncomfortable, get out now. Yeah, a little late, but better late than never. Was gonna talk the cult into committing mass suicide after all their assets have been transferred to the cult. So yeah, it was that typical lounge over the weak kind of thing in order to gain money. And a big corporation benefited from that. So yeah, almost feels like a actual crime show episode. So yeah, the truth does hurt, but at the end of the day, it just goes to show justice never lies. Number 12 on the list is another ending case from a district. Money Mile, I think it's called. I'm not 100% sure on that. The Art of Murder. Throughout this area, it is the second district of the season, and we are dealing the aftershock of an earthquake that destroyed the town, which we later discover in the game was a result of something that the main villains of the season did that caused geographical problems and caused the earthquake, resulting in the deaths of thousands and the destruction of millions. Sorry, thought I saw something. So during this district of an artist, Katmere, or something to that effect, was photographing the disaster and the dead bodies of some of the victims in the casualty for her art. And in doing so, she is found in a metal cage, dipped in lava during the aftermath. Yeah. I'm not going to lie, that's an ingenious way of doing it. And then, okay, some of these I'm going to basically give away because sometimes the motives are just so astronomically amazing. Yeah, the murderer is a guy who basically looks like Christian Bateman from the movie American Psycho. He fell in love with the victim, and I'm pretty sure she didn't reciprocate. So he knocked her out, put her in the cage, and dipped her in the lava just to hear her screams of agony. And yeah, it was kind of disturbing. Very, very, very disturbing. One of the few ending cases that kind of feels not on par with the high level of that the other cases do, but at the same time, another great ending. And it just goes to show that sometimes, I don't even know, but I'm going to say this. The murderer, Christian, yeah, he gets scot-free because he's rich and an insanity plea. And he's got a bigger role to play throughout this game. Man, this game knows how to make me love villains. Number 11 is a very mid-air in Maple Heights, which was the rich district in Season 1, but now has kind of become decimated. One of my absolute favorite cases in this season. For one thing Criminal Case does very well is kind of incorporate pop culture and world events into their characters in their buildings, coming up with parody characters. And one character here, look familiar? Yeah, they take a lot of reference from Riverdale in this season, and I'm all for it. The brother of this character is the victim in this case, and a majority of the suspects are family members, from his father to his grandmother or grandfather, I'm not 100% sure a little bit, and also her. It was the grandmother who was in a wheelchair who discovered that the victim kind of got in flagrante with the scullery maid of the mansion because, oh right, forgot to say the name of the case. Behind these walls. One thing I loved about this is how it completely twisted what I thought was going to happen. So yeah, the victim slept with his maid, and bada bing, bada boom, she was expecting a child. And unlike what I thought was going to happen, he was going to fire her and leave. He actually was going to do the responsible thing and let her live in the mansion and raise the child with her, like as an actual family. However, the grandmother didn't like this, the whole embarrassing of keeping the blood pure and everything, so she found him and killed him with an axe. Yeah. Almost kind of feels like Cheryl's issues from Riverdale with her ancestors being absolute bigots and terrible, terrible people. She is the only good one because at the end of the case, she finds the maid and again offers the same thing that her brother wanted, to live with the family and raise her niece or nephew. And that is an issue, and that is something I loved in this game. Sometimes when you think it's going to go one way, it completely turns it on its head, and it's done very well. It's a mid-area case. It doesn't hold that much story within like the grand scheme of the area, but it's a good one to kind of keep your feet wet. Okay, this one is a little bit off there, but it does have absolute it's a case that kind of feels like it wasn't going to go in a story route, but it does. Lights Out is in the second final area of the game. And it is again another fantastic representation of making it seem like it's going to be an easy, not that so much into the story case, but it does. After finding out that the power plant blacked out, leaving the city and all access, again, blacked out, the owner of the power plant is found murdered, with one character who constantly comes up being knocked unconscious and being the bodyguard. It was another character who was told to create a power blackout in order to stop a text message from going out. No, I'm serious. That's the whole motive. No, seriously. The text message is sent by one of the main villains of the game, sending it to another member of considering the entirety of the season, the conspiracy. Let me think. How far? Much farther. Okay. Not until the last case of this on this list, I will get into like the main villains and do all that stuff. And also, this is going to be one of the main videos where there's not going to be that much editing because criminal case, I'm not really going to do that much editing, like adding stuff to show people. Watch the cases. So yeah, it's a pretty simple case with a little bit intrigue. And also the case before this, the judge gets kidnapped by two brothers because in the last case, we sentenced their father and they wanted revenge on the judge. You see, here's the thing in this series in criminal case. When the main character is on the case, you don't have a snowball's chance in hell of getting away with what you're going to do. So, next out, Lights Out. Next out, Lights Out. Who writes this? Next up on the list is Running Scared. This is where things get stupid, but in a good way. It's the first case of the final district of the season, and it starts off on a big freaking high note from the last case of the previous district, where the villains of the game gain superpowers from a meteorite they found. Yeah, the meteorite was the object that fell, not a satellite, and they were extracting it. I'm going to go over the main story once I get to the final case, and I'm going to kind of rush it, so bear with me. After they kind of break out of prison, the villains kidnap one of our partner's son and ex-husband, and hence the name Running Scared, where after we find the son, we found out that the ex-husband was murdered. And it was all done on bequest of the main villains to throw us off the trail, and the murderer was honestly, I would have loved it if this person, actually, you know what, they got life in prison. Nothing else about that. A quick entry for this game, for the late season, for the final area. A quick first entry, but it all just builds up from here. So again, I put it a little bit higher because it sets the tone for the climax of the season. Number 8 on this list, Hear My Cry. The final case of the first area, and again, the area is called Fairview, and I'm pretty sure that's a Riverdale reference. I'm pretty sure, because a lot of the suspects look like they're from Riverdale, and a lot of the cases kind of have that little Riverdale-ish feel. So during the beginning of this season, we're trying to find a serial killer who's using a combination of an energy drink and called Rocket Cow, which is basically a parody of Red Bull, and a type of blood pressure medication. When the two combine, it kills the victim. And this one's been very interesting. Throughout the first area, we discover that this serial killer is targeting parents who have arguments with their teenage children. So, going back to season 2 of Criminal Case, it's kind of not exactly a rehash of the Puppeteer, who was a great villain. Great villain for the show, for the game. And if they make it into a show, it would absolutely be perfect to see the acting for this. But again, but after the last case before this one, our partner Gloria we were setting a staged where she was arguing with her teenage son to draw out the killer. And sadly, it worked too much, and she gets kidnapped. And a previous suspect from another season, from the very first season, where he's the father of a killer who wasn't really a killer. He just accidentally killed his best friend and was given 1 year of probation, 1 year in prison for probation. And he returns in this season being a little bit of who kind of looks like Jughead a little bit, or Archie, whichever. And his father is another victim. After digging it through, we find out that the serial killer, it turns out to be the principal of the high school. And the story is kind of what you would expect from this kind of murder. Because anytime a serial killer targets parents in this situation, they had problems with their own parents. And no, I'm not a professional psychologist. I just took a lot of I just took a lot of criminology courses in college, and I watch a lot of crime shows, and I kind of learn as I watch and read. So her parents were overbearing and controlling, but unlike the Puppeteer, she didn't kill her parents. She just went out and targeted parents who were neglectful or angry towards their teenage children. I hate that she returns in a later case, but it's not that bad, and at least we get something amazing to start off the season. So we get that. Next up, a Halloween episode that is absolutely amazing. Trick or Treat is an amazing case, wherein, again, a previous suspect is found slashed with a scythe on Halloween. And the dude was a bit of an ass. At first, I thought it was going to go in one direction, but it really didn't. His twin brother kind of hated him because he got a girl who was not that bad looking, actually. Let's put an image up there. And, of course, the victim was dressed up as a big bad wolf in order to fit the theme. But I would never suspected the brother doing the killing over a girl again, because it feels like that's a kind of common theme a little bit in crime shows, a good majority. Let's see, what else? Oh, during this whole segment, after we put one of the masterminds behind bars of the conspiracy, we try to find out where the whole... Okay, so basically the villains are called ad astra, which are basically, it translates to the stars in Latin. And it turns out it's in the university district where it kind of began, where it started out as a study group, but then became an actual criminal conspiracy in order to become the masters of the world or something, because these all the members figured that they were better than everyone else, and the strong should rule. I get it. It's actually a pretty good scheme, and I do enjoy it. And through this, we find out that one of our suspects is technically a member of the new generation of the study group, and we find a card from our criminal mastermind, Rosita Pierre. I think that was her name. I think so. But we find a card from her telling the new Ad Astra to get rid of a problem, aka the old professor who can identify all the members. And that leads us into the final case of the university, which is absolutely fantastic, because I'm going to get to it when I get to it, but I never thought Criminal Case would throw me for a loop as it did. So, next up, at number 6 is the very first case of the season, Snake in the Grass. After being reintroduced to one of my favorite characters in video games, David Jones. Actually, now that I think about it, I need to put him in another list. Anyway, we are also brought back to some of our old team members, like Alex and Kathy. I'm so happy those two stayed together, and now they have a kid, and now Kathy is working with the police as the tech expert, while Alex is the stay-at-home father. I love that. I loved Kathy in season 1, and I'm glad she's back in this season. I'm absolutely floored. And we're introduced to the new chief and the new characters that are in our team. And as always, whenever a character is mentioned off screen, good chances are they're going to become a victim. So the season starts by killing off our old coroner from season 1, Nathan. And a good majority of players kind of never really liked Nathan, because except for a good number of moments in season 1, he was never really given that much of story or development. But I still liked him. And the fact that they killed him off for the very first case, wow, guys. Absolutely freaking wow. And of course, given the name, he quit the police force to become a zoologist at the Grimsbroug Zoo, which I love that. I love it. And it's bad that the murder weapon was a snake. So yeah, he was tied up and poisoned. And, bit by the snake. So yeah. And watching this as a viewer, you really want to see how the story ends. Because I don't watch the games and just go right to who did it. I like to see the whole story because, yeah. Turns out it was an old friend of the victim who, after working with the police force, the killer asks Nathan to falsify some evidence where his son was charged with drug smuggling or something like that. I'm going to look up the information and put the actual motive right here, just so I don't make a mistake. And yeah, a great first case to start up the new season. And a side note, this is where the entirety of the blood pressure medication kind of comes into play, as a shipment of it was stolen. So yeah, great first case to start off an amazing season. All I can say is, Nathan, you may not have gotten that much development, but you were still a really good character from the OG season. That's all I can say. That's all I can say. Okay. This next one is an absolute blast. And I know the pun. The case to Kingdom Come is the final case of Springfield. No, don't even think about making that. Yeah, you already did it, didn't you? After the events of the university, we discovered Ad Astra's members had code names. And throughout this area, we were trying to find the code names that will identify them. And that's when we identify their plan is to use a substance that was used in the domed area, where we were kind of infiltrating the secret of what they were going after, and discovered that they were going to use this serum to inject. Okay. Quick rundown. We find out that they were going to use a chemical to basically make people basically brainwash people, and one of the members named Fornax, which ironically is the constellation of the Forge or the Furnace, just tried to burn down all the corn in Springfield so that their company can grow their own corn, inject it with the serum, have mutated corn, and have anyone who eats it become under their control. Oh my God. Yeah, I know it sounds like science fiction, but it actually works. And yeah. So after putting a member away and kind of being on the trail of another member, one of our characters dies. Not a main character, but a beat cop who tried to do her best in the game. And she is blown up. After in this area having her grandfather or her father killed, she herself becomes a victim. In a car bomb right outside the precinct. And it turns out it was a mistake. That bomb was meant for the player for getting too close to the truth of the conspiracy. And the murderer was the victim's boyfriend, who felt absolutely horrible of what he did, but he still did it. He still intended harm. And after a good number of areas throughout this game, it is revealed that the fourth member of the conspiracy, the one who sent the message for us to be assassinated, was none other than our former deputy and now acting mayor. I love it when Criminal Case has characters go way over our freaking heads with their infamous plots. I love it, and at the same time, because I'm so usually good at identifying what the twist is going to be, as I've stated in most crime games, I did not see it coming, and my jaw dropped. If I could erase Criminal Case from my memory and rewatch it right from the get-go, I wouldn't mind doing that. Or, like I said, please, someone, pretty simple, if you find this video, I know you ended the series, but could you try making it into a Netflix series? I would love it. I know a good number of fans would love it. Just gonna say, And now we're off to our top 4. There is a lot of ending cases on this list, and for good reason. Because as much as I love every single case of criminal case, the ends of the areas is where the story becomes its most climactic. And it's freaking amazing of how it happens as well. At the end of Maple Heights, we get Blood in the Water, where a previous fan favorite, Martha Price, who is the mayor of Grimsbroug, is found dead in a tank full of the demon fish. Quick summary up ahead. After the events of Old Town, we discover that after the earthquake, after discovering a lost city civilization of ruins, we find that there was a secret underwater channel below this ancient city, and once it cracked, ancient fish that were properly named the demon fish got loose into the water supply and is now trying to destroy the ecosystem and potentially poison people with their poisonous spines. After capturing the demon fish, after capturing the demon fish and actually studying them, we put them in a tank, and then we discover that Martha Price is pushed into a tank of them and is killed by them. Previous suspect from season 3 and previous suspect from season 3, who was in the Antarctica section of season 3, comes to Grimsbroug, who is a cryptozoologist who believes in monsters like the Bigfoot, Chupacabra, and also the demon fish. He wants to study the demon fish, and what better way to study them than finding them and releasing them into the ecosystem, causing hundreds of deaths. And then turns out that he is Martha Price's cousin, and she wanted to destroy the fish, and he couldn't let that happen, so he pushed her in, and she died. So yeah, he is charged with the multiple homicides, but things get a little bit... Really? I have to say this? Okay. Things get a little bit fishy, as after this we head right into the dome to identify what the hell is going on with the Dream Life company, which is where the meteor comes into play. Also, it's later revealed via video in a later case that Joe Warren, who is the deputy mayor, also one of the Ad Astra members I talked about earlier, kind of tells Martha Price to go into the demon fish area alone, as he says. So it's almost like he knew that Ernest was going to try re-releasing the fish again, kind of thrusting Martha to become dead so he can obtain the role of mayor. That's what I love about this season. It's plot upon plot upon plot, but it never feels like it's tacked on just for the sake of being having everything kind of tight, loose ends tied up. And now it's time for my top 3 of Criminal Case Season 5. Up in Flames. I'm getting a little emotional in this one because I didn't think Criminal Case had the balls to do what they freaking did. This is the final case of the Dome section. Man, I'm out of breath for this one, because as I stated in my Season 1 video, one murderer in this game that I love and I had high respect for was mobster Tony Marconi. I mean, yeah, he did kill the leader of the Viper gang, But he did it to save a known prostitute from being assaulted. Because after all the criminal stuff that he did, like racketeering and all the other illegal stuff, we never had evidence to pin anything on him until he actually killed this guy in order to defend a prostitute. And I never thought something like that would happen, especially in the very first district. And his reasoning for doing it was that that victim lost his right to live after doing what he did, because you don't hit women. You just don't. And that line and that case resonates with me even to this day. Tony Marconi may be a mobster and a bit of a criminal, but when it comes to stuff like that, he does not let people off the hook, and I love him for that. So seeing him get out in this season and return in a good number of cases, I absolutely missed him. He was one of my favorite characters from the original season. He is one of my favorite criminal case characters. And after telling us that under the dome, they were doing illegal experiments on people, and some of the results resulted in deaths, and Marconi kind of admitted that he was disposing of all the bodies. In this case, we are thrusted into going after the serum that Rosita was developing with the serum from the meteorite in order to control the populace. And before we could get in there, Tony Marconi goes in there, and he is found dead by Molotov cocktail. Kind of ironic that a mobster gets killed by a Molotov. And it turns out it is one of the scientists from the dome that killed him. And it turns out it's one of his children, one of his illegitimate children that he discovered. And he wanted to get him out of the dome before he's arrested by us in order to save his son. But sadly, the guy did not want to be saved, and in turn thought Tony was a criminal for wanting to destroy his work that he worked for, so he ended up killing him. And then afterwards, we destroy a majority of the serum because, yeah, some of it gets out already. And Rosita is now under arrest for accomplice to murder, masterminding events that caused thousands of deaths, and implicating in murder. And in this district, we lost a colleague who went undercover and then got found out, and then he was murdered. And then later on in this district, a character who was David's girlfriend, David Jones' girlfriend, who was missing for a while, but then we find her in the end of then we find her in the second district. And then she is arrested for murder because she was used as a test subject in these experiments, and she killed the doctor who was doing the experiments on her, so she was sent to prison. This whole district was an absolute nightmare. And for Dream Life, yeah, that's the name of the company, the Dream Life Corporation. It was this entire district where we have to go through Dream Life is an absolute nightmare because we lose a great suspect, we lose a great character in our team, we lose someone who committed murder via psychological distress, and we lose one of my favorite characters of Criminal Case. It's kind of weird though. Tony was the very first district killer, and he ended up going to prison for a good reason. And he wanted to save his son, and in doing that, he got himself killed. But in the end, he helped us bring down a good chunk of Ad Astra's plan. So it was a great case, and Tony Marconi, salute, my friend. Okay. Out of the depressing comes number 2 in this amazing case, Lashing Out. the final case of the university district, and we find the professor that was kind of telling us all about Ad Astra, originally telling us it was originally a study group full of intelligent students, but then we found out it's a secret. It was a conspiracy in order to take over the world, basically. And the new members of Ad Astra were told to get rid of him by their leader, Rosita Pierre. I think I'm pronouncing it right. One thing I love about this, so we find Charles tied to trees and whipped to death, hence the name Lashing Out. And what's funny about this case is that all 5 suspects are members of the new Ad Astra group. And we discover this throughout the university district, where each suspect appears in at least one of the 6 cases, at least one of the 5 cases before the 6th case that's the final of the district. And each one of them has something to do with this murder. One of them confesses, trying to throw us off the trail. Some of the others claim innocence and everything. But then when it's revealed, oh yeah, FYI, remember that smoking hot redhead student who was the Red Riding Hood in the Halloween episode that was before this one? Yeah, turns out we arrested her because all the evidence matches her, because of every bit of evidence that we've collected. And she basically does. She confesses everything, that she was doing it for Ad Astra because Rosita says that they were all special and that they deserve to take the world. But during the additional investigation, aside from discovering that a letter from the victim that was burned by the new group, that Ad Astra has 2 members are revealed in that letter, Cassiopeia and Fornax. Cassiopeia obviously being Rosita, because Cassiopeia is the queen of is the daughter of Andromeda. Is the mother of Cassio. Something along that line, which sends us into Springfield in order to find Fornax. Criminal Case throws a giant curveball that I absolutely love. And it's the only time it's done in Criminal Case, and I am in love with it for that reason. Turns out all 5 of these suspects, yes, they're under arrest for criminal conspiracy to commit murder, because all 5 of them took part in the murder themselves. Yeah, I'm going to put a list again here of the duties that they were supposed to do for the murder, but all 5 of them participated, taking turns lashing the victim until he was dead. So because all the evidence points to all 5 of them, but the final bit of evidence only points to Polly, the redhead, and she's the one arrested, but all 5 of them are sentenced as co-conspirators. And Criminal Case has never done anything like this, and I love it. I absolutely love it because it does something absolutely unique. It does something totally out of the box and completely throws me for a loop. So I gotta say, Lashing Out is a fantastic case, but only one case beats it for the #1 spot. And if you thought meteorites falling from the sky, a serum to control people, was stupid, and human experimentation was stupid enough, well, get ready for this, guys. The #1 case of Criminal Case Season 5 is Blaze of Glory. So the Ad Astra members, all 5 of them, were basically going to get superpowers from the serum. Oh, don't laugh. Don't laugh. And at the final case of the second to last district, one of its members, who killed the girlfriend of David because she was exhibiting signs of gaining superpowers. It was a suspect that appeared a majority throughout the game, but I had no clue what was going to happen until he was arrested. Remy, who was a news reporter and basically steered us the wrong way throughout the beginning of the game. Literally, throughout the game. So, an entrepreneur, a agricultural expert, a technology whiz, a deputy mayor, and a news reporter are all members of Ad Astra, the original Ad Astra, and they all did their part in the conspiracy. And it does great. Everyone had their own role to play, which made a lot of sense. And I love this image of them that depicts the entire group. It's done good. Sadly, with Remy dying in prison after another previous suspect from season 3, who was contracted to kill him in the prison. Turns out that there was someone even worse. Someone even worse who was in our midst. The conspiracy was just act 1. The final act of the game was fantastic. Turns out Rosita Pierre isn't a normal person. She was a genetic mutation experiment that had high levels of intelligence and high physical strength. And when she got to the university, she became friends with the other 4 members. And after deciding that they were far better than everyone else, that they decided to become Ad Astra and set their plans in motion. Little did they know that someone else had plans as well. The second case of the final area, we find out the true villain is Rosita's mom, who is the director of a space program who we were helping a little bit near the end of the season. And it went right over my goddamn head. Being her mother is a loose term, basically her creator. And it turns out she created an army of mutants, of beings of perfection, and she was going to conquer the world with them, with her as the head. And she's in the case Lights Out. She was the one who contracted the dude to cause the blackout so the Ad Astra members couldn't send a text message to them warning them that someone's after them. And also contracted the one suspect from who developed the giant plague virus in season 3, this character, to kill Remy in order to eliminate most of the Ad Astra. Which their plan does work in the previous case of this. But it turns out that the main villain, Denise, got too big for her britches, and she is killed and has her head placed in a sword statue. Turns out her assistant was a clone, was one of the mutations that she created, who decided to, as he became more outside of his tank, he decided to get smarter and gain sentience. And also being the very first of the creations outside of Rosita. And during this point, most of the members of Ad Astra are gone, except for the ex-mayor. And yeah, we gotta stop the mutants. This is a crime series, right? Yeah. After season 5, everything kind of takes a big freaking left swing into absolute absurdity. But at the same time, I still love it. And the big finale is absolutely amazing, where arresting the killer really doesn't do anything. And yeah, all of them kind of have like a hive mindset where if we kill the very first one, all the others will die. And we use the serum that was given to Ad Astra to gain superpowers on one of our team members. And she sacrifices herself in order to destroy all the mutants. Okay, seriously, this is a crime series, right? Because I think I just basically told a story of an X-Men episode. Overall, this season finale has everything going for it. The high stakes that every season has, the absolute absurdity that goes into the next season, and overall, a great end to another fantastic season. And that's it for my top 13 video, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you criminal case fans are still out there who enjoy videos like this. Like, comment, subscribe down below. And join me next week, guys, where I am going back to Villainous into the multiverse, where it's going to be one hell of a time. This is Gamer K, logging out.